The world came back to Min in a slow, painful wave. It was not a gentle return. First came the feeling, a deep, dull ache in his bones. Then came the smell. It was a strange mix of sweet flowers and something sharp like metal and ozone. Last came the sound, a soft, low hum that seemed to come from everywhere at once. He opened his eyes. The ceiling above him was not a ceiling. It was a smooth, curved surface that glowed with a soft green light. The light pulsed slowly, like a sleeping heart. He was lying on something firm but comfortable. He moved his fingers. The surface felt smooth and warm, like stone left in the sun. Memory returned in broken pieces. The alarm blaring on the colony ship Odyssey. The violent shudder that threw him from his bed. The screaming sound of metal tearing apart. The final, terrible silence of the emergency pod closing around him. Then nothing. He was alive. But where was he? Slowly, carefully, Min pushed himself up onto his elbows. His body protested with fresh aches. He looked around. He was in a large round room. The walls were not straight. They curved inward, meeting at the top to form a dome. Everything looked organic, as if it had been grown, not built. The glowing green veins in the walls pulsed with light. There were no sharp corners, no doors that he could see, no windows. Fear, cold and sharp, started to push through the confusion. This was not a human ship. This was not a human station. A movement to his right made him freeze. On a wide, raised platform a few feet away, something shifted. It was a figure reclining on a bed of what looked like woven, shimmering silk. The figure was tall and slender. Its skin was not skin, but a hard shell, like a beetle, colored a deep, shining amber. It had 2 legs, but 4 slender arms rested at its sides. Its face was long and elegant, but unmistakably insect-like. 2 large, dark eyes, made of 1,000 tiny facets, watched him. Min's breath caught in his throat. This was an alien. A real, living alien. The being did not move aggressively. It simply watched him, its head tilted. Then a voice filled his mind. It was not a sound he heard with his ears. It was a clear, melodic voice that appeared directly in his thoughts. "You are awake." Good. Min flinched. He opened his mouth to speak, but his throat was dry and tight. He coughed and managed a rough whisper. "Who? What are you? Where am I?" "I am Era. This is the Royal Chrysalis. You are safe here." The voice was calm and certain. It left no room for argument. "My ship. The Odyssey. There were others." Min's mind raced, thinking of the other colonists. The friends he had made during the long journey from Mars. "Your vessel was damaged beyond repair when it crossed into our territory," Era's mental voice replied. There was no emotion in the statement, just a simple fact. "We recovered your escape pod. You are the only life sign we detected. You are the sole survivor." The words hit Min like a physical blow. Sole survivor. He was alone. Completely and utterly alone. The weight of it pressed down on him, and he dropped his head into his hands. He was just a hydroponics engineer. He was good with plants, with water systems, with making things grow. He was not a hero. He was not built for this. "Your sadness has a unique resonance," Era's voice commented, a hint of curiosity in its tone. "It is deeper than I expected." Min looked up, confusion cutting through his grief. "Resonance? What are you talking about?" Era shifted her position. One of her 4 hands gestured vaguely in the air. "My people, the Cathar, perceive the universe through a sense you do not possess. We hear the life song of living things. Most species. Their song is simple. A single, steady note. A hum of existence. But you. She leaned forward slightly, her multifaceted eyes focusing on him with an intensity that was both fascinating and terrifying. "Your song is complex. It is a symphony. It changes with your thoughts, your feelings. It is the most beautiful thing I have ever encountered." Min could only stare. He was a symphony? To him he was just Min, a man who missed his home, who was good at his job, and who was now very, very scared. "Why did you bring me here?" he asked, his voice barely a whisper. You are my guest, Era replied, as if it were the most obvious thing in the world. A treasure should be kept in a place of honor. Your song is a treasure. It is a prize? A prize? The word felt ugly. I'm not a thing to be one. To the Cathar, a unique and beautiful life song is the ultimate prize, Era stated. Her tone was not cruel, but it was firm. It was the voice of a queen who was used to being obeyed. You will stay here. You will be cared for. You will be safe. As she finished speaking, a section of the wall nearby rippled and parted without a sound. Two smaller aliens entered. They looked similar to Era, but their amber shells were duller, and they moved with a slow, precise purpose. They did not look at Min. One placed a bowl made of a polished, wood-like material on the floor near him. Inside were pieces of strange, purple fruit. The other placed a cup filled with clear liquid. Then they turned and left, the wall sealing behind them. Eat, drink, Era commanded gently. Your body requires sustenance. Hesitantly, Min reached for the cup. He was terribly thirsty. The water was cool and clean. He then picked up a piece of the fruit. It was soft and sweet, unlike anything he had ever tasted. As he ate, he watched Era. She had settled back onto her dais, her forearms arranged gracefully around her. She was watching him, her head tilted, as if she were listening to a piece of fine music. He was not a prisoner, she had said. But he was not free. He was an honored guest, a treasure to be admired and kept. The reality of his situation settled over him. He was trapped in a beautiful, glowing cage, owned by a creature who saw him not as a person, but as a song. He thought of the vast, empty space outside this organic ship. He thought of the lost colony ship, his lost friends, his lost future. The fear and loneliness were a cold knot in his stomach. But underneath that fear, something else stirred. A small, stubborn spark. He was human. He was not a prize. He was not a song. He was Min, and he would find a way out. Days turned into a strange, quiet rhythm for Min. The glowing chamber was his entire world. He ate the food that was brought to him. He drank the clean, cool water. He slept on the warm, firm bed. Queen Era was often there, watching him. Sometimes she would ask him questions, her voice a direct line into his mind. Tell me about the color blue, she would command. Show me your memory of it. Min would try to focus. He would think of the sky over Mars, of the deep ocean videos he had seen from Earth. The air in the chamber would sometimes shimmer, and a faint, ghostly image of a blue sky would flicker for a second before fading. Era's song would hum with a deep, thrumming satisfaction. It was a sound he was starting to feel in his bones, a vibration of pleasure. Other times she was silent for long hours, simply observing him as he moved around the limited space. He was a living art piece in her private gallery. He felt his hope for escape shrinking, replaced by a heavy acceptance. This was his life now, to be a beautiful object for a powerful alien queen. Then the piece shattered. It began with a change in the air. The soft, constant hum of the chrysalis shifted in tone. It became sharper, more urgent. Era, who had been resting, stood up suddenly. Her amber plates shifted, clicking together softly. Her posture was alert, like a soldier hearing an alarm. A section of the wall on the far side of the chamber rippled violently. It did not part gently. It tore open with a sound like ripping fabric. Through the opening stepped another alien. This one was different from Era. She was slightly smaller, her form more angular and sharp. Her chitinous plates were a dark, metallic blue, like a weapon. She moved with a quick, aggressive energy, her forearms held in tight, ready positions. Her multifaceted eyes scanned the room and immediately locked onto Min. Sister, a new voice echoed in Min's head. It was not a melody like Era's. It was a clarion call, sharp and clear and full of challenge. You did not think to share your new treasure? Era moved to stand between the newcomer and Min. Her own mental voice was cold. Nari, you are not welcome in my private chambers. This does not concern you. The blue alien, Nari, let out a dry, rattling sound that Min understood was a laugh. Doesn't concern me? You find a resource like this and you think it doesn't concern me? Her gaze burned into Min, and he felt a strange sensation like 1,000 tiny needles pricking at the edges of his mind. Its resonance is potent, unstable. You would let it sit here, singing its little songs while you admire it. He is not an it. Era's voice was sharp with anger. His song is pure. You would only seek to break it apart to see how it works. I would seek to understand it. Nari shot back, taking a step forward. This song you cherish, sister, could be a key to new technologies, a key to understanding other species. It could be a weapon, and you would let it languish as your personal entertainer? Min stood frozen, his heart pounding. He was a resource, a key, a weapon. The words were even worse than being called a treasure. His value is in his beauty. Era stated, her voice firm, his value is in his application. Nari countered. The conclave of queens is in one lunar cycle. The one who controls this human will have undeniable influence. The others will have to listen. I challenge your guardianship, Era. You are not fit to wield this tool. A challenge? Era's posture straightened, and for a moment she seemed to grow taller, more imposing. You would challenge the right of a queen to her own prize? I challenge your narrow view of its purpose, Nari said. This is not some common crystal you found. This is a strategic asset. The hive must benefit, not just your private senses. The two sisters stood facing each other, the air crackling with their silent argument. Min could feel the pressure of their thoughts pushing against each other, a silent war happening just inches from him. He was the cause of it, yet he had no say in it at all. Finally, Era spoke, her voice tight with controlled fury. An open fight would weaken the hive. We will not spill blood over this, agreed. Nari's voice was sharp with triumph. She had gotten what she wanted, a negotiation. We will have a trial of claim. A trial. Era's thought was wary. Yes, Nari said. The human will spend one lunar cycle with you. Then he will spend one lunar cycle with me. We will each have the opportunity to demonstrate the true value of his song. You will show its beauty. I will show its power. After the 2 cycles, the Hive Council will decide. They will vote on which queen is the rightful keeper. Min's stomach dropped. A trial. He was to be a test subject, passed between 2 powerful beings who saw him as nothing more than a special object. He finally found his voice, a rough, scared sound in the quiet room. Wait, he said. Both alien heads turned to look at him. You're talking about me like I'm a piece of equipment. I am a person? I have a say in this. Nari's sharp, mental laugh echoed in his skull. Your say is irrelevant, little song? Your people are primitive. You have no power here. Your only purpose is to be useful. Era looked at him, and for a moment he thought he saw something else in her large, dark eyes. Not kindness, but perhaps a flicker of pity. It is the way of things, Min. This is the only way to avoid a greater conflict. You will be treated well in both courts? That I can promise. The promise felt empty. He was still a possession, just one that might change hands. The trial begins now, Nari declared. I will take the first cycle. No, Era's voice was immediate and final. I found him. He remains with me first. You will have your turn. Nari's blue plates shifted, a clear sign of irritation, but she nodded once. Very well, 1 cycle. Do not think you can hide its potential from me, sister. I will be watching. With one last, piercing look at Min, Nari turned and strode back through the torn opening in the wall. The organic material knitted itself back together, leaving the chamber as smooth and unbroken as before. The room was quiet again, but the peace was gone. The air felt heavy with tension. Era was still standing, her back to him, her 4 arms held tightly at her sides. Min sank down onto his bed, the warmth of it now feeling like a trap. He had thought his life was simple before. He was a prisoner in a golden cage. Now he was a prize in a contest between 2 gods. One wanted to admire him. The other wanted to use him as a tool for war. He looked at his hands. They were the hands of a gardener. They were made to nurture life, to help things grow. He was not a weapon. He was not a symphony, but he knew with a cold certainty that he would have to find a way to be more. He would have to find a way to survive the gentle cage of Era and the sharp forge of Nari. His life, his very self, depended on it. The first part of the trial began in Era's domain. Her idea of demonstrating his value was to treat him like a rare art exhibit. She took him to a place she called the Spire Gardens. It was a vast, open space inside the ship, filled with strange, glowing plants. Some were tall and thin, like crystals. Others were soft and moved slowly as if breathing. These plants react to life resonance, Era explained in his mind. Show them your song. Min did not know how to show them anything. He just stood there, feeling awkward. Era guided him. Think of a strong feeling, happiness, sadness. Think of a memory from your home. Min closed his eyes. He thought of his small apartment on Mars. He thought of the red dust outside his window. He thought of the taste of a simple meal of rice and vegetables. He felt a pang of homesickness, a deep and heavy sadness. A soft gasp from Era made him open his eyes. The plants around him were reacting. Their soft green and blue lights had dimmed to a deep, mournful purple. The air seemed to grow thicker. Amazing, Era hummed. You do not just project an image. You project the emotion itself. The feeling. She had him try other memories. He thought of the joy of seeing a seed he planted finally sprout. The plants glowed a bright, vibrant yellow. He thought of the fear during the ship's accident. The lights flickered a frantic, sharp red. To Era, this was the ultimate proof of his value. His song could paint with emotion. It was a living, breathing work of art. She also tried to teach him to control it. She wanted him to project clear images, not just feelings. He would sit for hours focusing on a simple object from his memory, a cup, a book. Sometimes the air would shimmer and a faint, ghostly shape would appear for a second. But it was hard. It felt like trying to hold water in his hands. The harder he tried, the faster it slipped away. His time with Era was comfortable. He was fed well. He was never threatened. But he felt his spirit slowly fading. He was a bird in a gilded cage, singing when his owner asked him to sing. The day the cycle ended, Nari returned. She did not enter gently. The wall parted with the same violent tear as before. She stood there, a sharp blue silhouette against the soft green glow of Era's chamber. My turn. Her voice cut through the quiet. The tool comes with me. Era looked at Min. Her song was a complex mix of regret and defiance. Remember, sister. He is a being, not a tool. Harm him, and the trial is forfeit. I have no interest in damaging a valuable asset, Nari replied coolly. She gestured with one of her lower arms. Come, human. Min had no choice. He walked towards Nari, leaving the warm, glowing chamber behind. He stepped through the torn wall and into a different world. Era's domain was soft and organic. Nari's was hard and angular. The corridors here were straight, the walls a dull, metallic gray. The air was cooler and smelled of ozone and energy. There were no glowing plants. Instead, there were panels of blinking lights and crystalline screens showing complex streams of data. Nari did not take him to a garden. She took him to a room that looked like a laboratory. In the center was a large, clear crystal chair surrounded by thin, silver wires that floated in the air. Sit, Nari commanded. Hesitantly, Min sat in the chair. It was cold and uncomfortable. My sister admires the noise you make. Nari's voice was all business. I am interested in its structure, its function. Your song is a form of data. I will learn to read it. The silver wires came to life, moving around his head without touching him. A large crystal screen lit up in front of him, showing chaotic, swirling patterns. First, a simple logic test, Nari said. A complex puzzle appeared on the screen. It was a series of interconnected symbols and flowing lines of light. It looked like an advanced wiring diagram mixed with a strange language. Min had no idea what it was, but he was an engineer. He understood systems. He understood flow and logic. He stared at the puzzle, ignoring the strange symbols and focusing on the patterns. He saw a blockage in one of the energy flows. He saw a redundant loop that was wasting power. That line is broken, he said. pointing. And this circle here, it's unnecessary. It's creating a short circuit. Nari was silent for a moment. Then, one of the lines on the screen corrected itself. The entire pattern glowed more brightly and efficiently. Interesting, Nari's voice was thoughtful. You do not understand the principles, but you intuit the function. Your mind seeks patterns. The next test was a historical battle simulation. The screen showed 2 fleets of Cathar ships moving against each other in a starfield. Nari explained the basic rules, the strength of the ships, their weapons. Their speed. The blue fleet is going to lose, Min said after watching for a minute. Explain. Nari demanded. They are spreading their ships too thin. They are trying to protect 3 points at once. The red fleet is stronger in the center. If blue pulls its ships from the sides and attacks the red center all at once, they can break through. The red fleet's flanks are weak. It's a gamble, but it's their only chance. He was just using basic tactics he had learned from old strategy games. But to Nari it was a revelation. She input his suggestions. The blue fleet regrouped and smashed through the red fleet's center. Winning the battle? You predicted a 68% probability of victory for blue with that maneuver. My own systems calculated a 42% probability. Nari's voice was sharp with excitement. Your resonance is not just data. It is predictive. It sees optimal outcomes. Min's days in Nari's lab were long and exhausting. He was not asked about his feelings. He was given problems to solve. Ship routes to optimize. Communication networks to repair. System failures to predict. It was stressful, but it was also the first time since his capture that he felt like he was using his own skills. He was thinking, solving, engineering. Nari watched him constantly. Her song was not one of beauty, but of intense focus and calculation. She saw his value growing with every problem he solved. She saw a key to unlocking greater power for her hive. And for herself, when the lunar cycle ended, Min was tired in a different way. His mind felt stretched and used. He had been a tool, but a useful one. He had seen a flicker of respect in Nari's sharp, focused eyes. It was better than the pity he saw in Era's. The 2 queens stood before the hive council in a large, circular chamber. Min stood between them, feeling small. Era presented her case. She showed recordings of the plants in the spire garden, glowing with the colors of human emotion. She spoke of the beauty and cultural enrichment his song provided. The council listened, their songs humming with mild appreciation. Then Nari presented her case. She showed the optimized ship routes, the corrected battle simulations, the predicted system failures. She showed hard numbers. An 18% increase in efficiency. A 25% improvement in tactical success. The council's song shifted. It became sharper, more interested. Power and efficiency were things they understood deeply. Nari turned to Min, her triumph clear in her posture. Now, her voice rang in the chamber. Demonstrate the final application. Interface with the advanced wargame simulator. Show the council how your song can be a direct instrument of battle. Show them how you can guide our weapons to victory. All eyes, both physical and mental, were on him. He was at the center of the room. He was the key. He was the tool. He was the prize. And in that moment, he knew he had to be none of those things. He had to be something else entirely. The air in the council chamber was thick with expectation. Min could feel it, a heavy pressure against his skin. The alien leaders watched him, their multifaceted eyes unblinking. He could feel the faint buzz of their collective thoughts, all focused on him. He was the puzzle. He was the key. Nari's command echoed in his mind. Show them how you can guide our weapons. Era was silent. He glanced at her. Her amber form was rigid. She did not want this, but she would not stop it. To her, this was a vulgar use of his gift, but it was still part of the trial. She would let it happen to prove her point about his delicate nature, guiding weapons. The words made him feel sick. He was a man who fixed broken water lines. He grew food. He had spent the last cycle solving problems, and it had felt good to use his mind. But this was different. This was taking his thoughts and turning them into destruction. He looked at the war game simulator. It was a large holographic display showing 2 fleets of Cathar ships. It was a complex web of light and data. He was supposed to touch it with his mind to guide the blue fleet to crush the red. He thought about doing it. He could probably win the simulation. He had a knack for patterns. He could find the weak points. He could be the ultimate weapon Nari wanted. It would keep him safe in her forge. She would value a useful tool, but then he would never be anything else. He thought about giving Era what she wanted. He could try to make something beautiful. He could project a lovely memory of a sunset. It would be weak. It would fail. The council would see him as a fragile toy, and Nari would win. He would be taken to her labs forever. Neither choice was freedom. Both choices meant he was owned. A deep, cold anger started to burn in his chest. It was not a loud anger. It was a quiet, solid thing. It was the anger of a man who was tired of being a thing. It was the anger of a human who refused to be owned. He was not a song. He was not a tool. He was Min. He took a slow, deep breath. He did not look at the simulator. He did not try to think of a happy memory. He closed his eyes and shut out the room. He shut out the watching aliens. He shut out the 2 queens who fought over him. He turned his attention inward. He focused on the knot of feelings in his chest. The fear of being torn from his ship. The grief for his lost friends. The loneliness of the glowing cage. The frustration of being tested and measured. The sharp, cold anger at being treated like an object. He did not try to shape it. He did not try to make it beautiful or useful. He simply let it all rise to the surface. He let the fear and the grief and the anger fill him up. He remembered the helplessness. He remembered the despair. He remembered the stubborn spark of defiance that had kept him going, and then he let it out. It was not a controlled projection. It was not a gentle wave of sadness for the plants. It was a raw, unfiltered blast of everything he was feeling. It was a psychic scream. The effect was immediate and chaotic. The holographic war game simulator flickered once, then shattered into 1,000 pieces of scattered light before vanishing completely. The crystal screens around the room went dark. The soft, constant hum of the ship's systems stuttered and died, plunging the chamber into a silence that was deeper than any Min had ever heard. The Cathar Council recoiled. It was not a movement of fear, but of physical and mental pain. Their songs, the gentle harmonies that made up their communication, screeched into terrible dissonance. They clutched at their heads, their slender bodies trembling. The unstructured, violent storm of human emotion was a shockwave their refined psychic senses could not process. It was like a blinding flash of light in a world of darkness. It was like a deafening explosion in a world of whispers. For a few seconds, there was only silence and darkness. Then, slowly, the emergency lights came on, casting a dim glow. The systems began to reboot, the hum returning as a weak, shaky sound. Min stood in the center of the room, his chest heaving. He felt drained, empty. He had poured everything out. He looked around. The council members were slowly recovering, their songs returning as weak, confused whispers. They looked at him not with anger or desire, but with a kind of stunned awe. They had been fighting over a rare instrument, but he had just revealed he was a force of nature. Nari was staring at him. Her sharp, blue form was rigid. The triumph was gone from her posture. In its place was something new, a deep, intellectual shock. She had tried to measure a hurricane with a ruler. She had tried to analyze a star with a computer. It was impossible. Her mind, so used to logic and data, was reeling. The sheer, untamed power she had just witnessed was beyond her understanding of utility. Era was the first to move. She took a slow step towards him. Her usual grace was gone. She moved carefully, as if approaching something both sacred and dangerous. Her mental voice, when it came, was hushed, filled with a reverence that had not been there before. She began, her thoughts stumbling. We sought to contain a star. We thought we could hold its light in our hands. Forgive us. Her words were not for the council. They were for him. Nari finally found her voice. It was not sharp or commanding. It was quiet, humbled. Such power, she thought. It is not a thing to be claimed. It is not a tool to be used. It is a force. A force to be respected. The trial of claim was over? It was meaningless. How can you own an earthquake? How can you keep a supernova as a pet? The head of the council, an older Cathar with faded gray plates, looked from Era to Nari and then to Min. The council's collective song was one of agreement. The argument was settled. The human was not a prize. Min stood there, breathing slowly. The silence in the room was no longer heavy with expectation. It was a silence of awe. He had not won by fighting. He had not won by being useful or beautiful. He had won by finally, completely, refusing to be anything but what he was. He was human. And that was enough. The silence in the council chamber did not last long. It was replaced by a low, humming discussion. The Cathar leaders communicated in a flurry of thoughts, their songs weaving together into a new, unified decision. The two queens, Era and Nari, were part of it. Their rivalry was gone, buried under the shocking truth of what Min was, the head of the council. The older Cathar with gray plates turned its multifaceted eyes toward Min. Its voice, when it spoke in his mind, was formal and carried great weight. The trial of claim is concluded. There will be no victor. A force of nature cannot be owned. It can only be acknowledged.